All right. So I'm Janet Lancaster. I'm part of the team behind Vote for Fire District. I'm also the co-founder of Fire Smart Merlin. Fire Smart Merlin learns, educates, and organizes around the prevention of, preparation for, and surviving wildfire. Vote for Fire District is a group of citizens that believe it is imperative that a rural fire protection district be formed in the unprotected area of Josephine County. Collectively, this group has hundreds of years of firefighting and life safety experience. Most of us were members of the Josephine County Fire Protection Committee. Also on the line with us today is Brian Hawkins and John Maupin, as well as Austin Prince from Rural Metro Fire at my invitation to serve as a resource. Our goal is to provide factual information to voters in the unprotected area so they can make an informed decision about forming a rural fire protection district. Everyone gets one vote, including me. Okay, so what we're going to cover today are two things I had to amend to the agenda. What's in it for me? And what is a rural fire protection district? Okay, we're going to cover the nuts and bolts. I am going to try to monitor, I have some help monitoring the waiting room. So we have to start with some definitions. And the first one is the unprotected area. The unprotected area is that area in Josephine County that is neither in a fire district nor within the city of Grants Pass. If you purchase fire protection from Rural Metro or County Fire, you are in the unprotected area. It encompasses 288 square miles. And this map you see here, here's Josephine County, the black outline. The unprotected area is this ginormous yellow area. The little green area is the city of Grants Pass. We have Wolf Creek up at the top. Applegate are these two little, Applegate Fire District are these two purple areas. Blue is the Williams Fire District, and this peach color is the Illinois Valley Fire District. The unprotected area is larger than all other 4 fire districts combined. Rural Metro Fire responds to approximately 2,600 calls annually. We're not sure how many calls County Fire responds to, but they also provide service in this area. It includes Wilderville, Jerome Prairie, Riverbanks, Pickett Creek, Azalea, Upper and Lower River Road, Galeese, Merlin, Hugo, Colonial Valley, Jones Creek, Sunny Valley, as well as State Route 199 to Hayes Hill and the I-5 corridor. Rural Metro subscribers comprise 65 to 70% of the homes in the unprotected area, and Lee County Fire covers about 5% of the homes. This area is considered unprotected because private fire departments are not recognized by the state of Oregon. The Office of the State Fire Marshal is the authority over recognized fire departments in Oregon. If you do not live in the unprotected area, you will not see this question on the ballot. Now, if you want to find out if you are in the unprotected area, you can Google Josephine County GIS and look for the map that says fire districts, and they have a layer called not protected, and you can put in your address actually and see if you are in the unprotected area. The next definition, we need to understand the Wildland Urban Interface. The Wildland Urban Interface, or the WUI, you will hear it, WUI, is any area where homes are built near or among lands prone to wildland fire. The WUI is not a place per se, but it's a set of conditions that can exist in nearly every community. It can be a major subdivision, or it can be 4 homes on an open range. Here in Josephine County, we live in forested areas prone to wildfire. We live in the WUI. The other term to understand, so this is a map from 2017 of the WUI, okay? And that is all this purple, okay? And you can see there the dark purple is intermixed and the little black dots are homes. So we live in the WUI. Next term that we need to understand is the authority having jurisdiction. Sorry about that. All hazard agencies not only respond to fires, but also respond to emergencies, accidents, and disasters, all hazards. traffic accidents, medical emergencies, structure fires, technical rescues, hazmat calls, lift assists, as well as wildland fires and natural disasters. In most communities around the country, firefighting is just one of the many services delivered by the local fire department. That's why they're called all hazard fire departments, and they are the norm across the United States. As I mentioned, they respond to many types of different emergencies, not just fire. And that includes public assists and calls, what they call lift assists, right? The fire department responds to those. So there's a concept of operational readiness or capacity that is very important to understanding some of the problems with the current rate structure. Community-based public services are not limited. They include fire protection, but they also include law enforcement, public works, child welfare, healthcare, animal control, public education, and 4-H. In most communities around the country, firefighting is just one of the many fire and life safety services delivered by the fire department. To deliver this wide variety of services requires specialized training and equipment. Turnouts, also known to us lay people as firefighter uniforms, run in the thousands of dollars, and each firefighter has their own. And they have a shelf life of 10 years and have to be replaced. To enter a burning structure, firefighters must follow the 2-in, 2-out rule, where firemen have SCBA gear and specialized training. Manned or unmanned, 2 men together enter as 2 men stand outside. There have to be enough stations, manned or unmanned, to cover the territory and store vehicles and equipment. There are currently 8 fire stations in the unprotected area, manned and unmanned. There have to be enough resources to cover all of the stations. And then there's training. This is a highly technical, highly skilled profession. They must be trained on a multitude of techniques, and they have to maintain that training. And then there's fire engines, right? Base model fire engines, like one you see here, is $500,000. This one actually was $632,000 in 2018. All that equipment on the apparatus, on the vehicles, have to be maintained and inspected, often by third-party inspectors. So you can see there is a large fixed or sunk cost to having the trained resources, equipment, tools, and stations to be operationally ready to respond. And this slide just looks at fire protection. Imagine the people, training, equipment, and tools that an all hazard agency needs to be ready to respond to traffic accidents, hazmat, wildland fires, medical calls. So the cost associated with having this capability to respond is called operational readiness. Please take a minute and look at this. One of our members, John Maupin, said this to me, and I just thought it was a very compelling quote. So forming a rural fire protection district is the best thing we can do to reduce the chance of a catastrophic interface fire by improving response times. Forming a fire district allows us to reduce response times for every service that's delivered. Structural fires, wildland fires, car accidents, medical calls, technical rescues, lift assists, and hazmat response. And as you know, seconds count when someone's collapsed on the floor and is unconscious. Seconds count when a visitor can't swim and is trapped under the brush in the river. Seconds count when a car goes over an embankment in the snow and ice. One threat everyone in the unprotected area faces 6 months out of the year is wildfire. Unlike a car accident or technical rescue, wildfire is a community-based threat that is here with potentially thousands of residents impacted at the same time. If you remember nothing else today, please remember this. The faster the response on initial attack, the less likelihood a fire will escape. If you are concerned about and want to improve our community response to wildfire, we can accomplish that with a fire district. The next thing that a fire district will do for us is that it enables us to use a $1.5 million state grant awarded in 2019 to Josephine County for startup costs for a fire district. The current proposal at $1.74 includes using these funds to build a new station in Hugo at no cost to the taxpayers. using that grant money that we have. This station would become the property of the fire district. Unless we establish the fire district, the money goes back to the state. This station would come online within the first 2 to 3 years of the new fire district. This is just up by exit 66. We don't know the exact location of the Hugo station because they have to find land, and they don't know whether it will be, on east or west of I-5, but that it will be up in Hugo. That is the plan. The second thing that a new fire district gives us is it makes the Robertson Bridge Merlin station 24/7, 365. It is currently a reserve station. Response times for both the first engine and second engine to arrive on scene will be reduced for a significant portion of the unprotected area. Response times are critical, as I mentioned, to protect lives and properties. And as I also mentioned, it bears repeating, response time is the factor that helps prevent wildfires escaping initial attack. And that is the key to keeping fires from becoming conflagrations. Specifically, fully staffing the Robertson Bridge station allows backup of other stations in the county that may have their firefighting resources committed to another incident. Second engine response time is nearly as critical as first engine response time, since that allows the mandatory 2 in, 2 out standard that I explained to be met sooner, and it provides additional assurance that the fire can be stopped. 2 in, 2 out is required for interior attacks and allows, as I mentioned, for 2 firefighters standing ready outside while 2 firefighters attack the inside. Improving our response times benefits the entire county because we can provide better mutual auto aid response to Grants Pass and the other 4 fire protection districts in the county. Homeowners within 5 miles of these stations may also qualify for a discount on their homeowner's insurance with a full-time fire station within 5 miles. However, there are no standards on fire protection in the insurance industry, so everybody will have to check with your insurance company to make sure, to find out if they honor that or not. Finally, the new fire district gets us a fuels reduction program geared towards low-income citizens, okay? This will help them to improve ingress and egress out of their properties and create defensible space for people that have neither the financial nor physical ability to do it themselves. As in so many communities in Southwest Oregon, the need to create defensible space on private property is enormous, and this helps our most vulnerable neighbors. We want to make sure that everybody can get out if they need to. And finally, the new fire district gets us grants for equipment, training, staff. It provides the ability as a fire district for all of these resources. Unlike private agencies, fire districts can apply for block grants also to help homeowners create defensible space around their homes. There are also specific grant programs for firefighting training. We can also apply for grants for new and surplus equipment as well as additional staff. And this gives us the ability as a community to build our own capacity. So we become the owners of equipment and so forth. Our neighboring fire districts in Josephine County have relied heavily on grants to build their capacity over decades, and they are a common and vital source of funding for fire districts across the United States. And then finally, a rural fire district ensures that the unprotected area secures funding for all hazard services. In the current model, participation is voluntary. This shortchanges the potential capacity of the area. Only 70% of the citizens pay for that operational readiness that I described and the all hazard services. The majority of homes in the unprotected area are rural metro customers, and a majority of rural metro customers pay today, including myself, $1.94 per thousand. When everyone pays, our rates go down, we improve our response time, resulting in better coverage to all hazard, not just fire. Everyone pays the same rate, which is proposed at $1.74 under a fire district. This would be instead of a subscription with the private fire agency. The proposed $1.74 rate is almost the lowest among the 5 districts in Josephine County and vastly lower than comparable districts in Jackson County. So here are the permanent rates. You can see the proposed fire district of $1.74. The next closest one is Williams at $1.71. Williams is very small compared to the unprotected area. And one of the reasons why we can get this great rate is because we have so many homes. We are the 600-pound gorilla in the unprotected area. The unprotected area is the 600-pound gorilla. So we are lucky in that respect that we are large enough and we have enough homes that we can have a lower rate when everybody participates. As I mentioned, the other 4 districts are together are smaller than the unprotected area. So when we look at comparable districts down here in the bottom half of this chart, Douglas County and Jackson County districts see their rates, and that is just their permanent operating rate. So what I tell you, $1.74 is a bargain for everything we get. Hopefully you have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So will some people pay more? Yes. But the majority of rural metro customers will pay less overall when everyone pays. There are several financial subsidies in place in the unprotected area right now that an RFPD will address. Okay, so the subsidies are those that pay nothing, people that subscribe to county fire, people that qualify for the hardship program, and residential property owners that have so much square footage that they are allowed a commercial rate. The $1.74 budget provides for the continuation of the hardship program, so our neighbors with the greatest need are covered. The other thing is the state of Oregon has a program for low-income homeowners. If they want to defer their property taxes until the property is sold, they can do that. The people that will pay more under the new fire district at $1.74, in essence, have been receiving a discount for service. Rural Metro is required to respond to every 911 call they're dispatched to. They are the only all-hazard agency operating in the unprotected area. Everyone knows this, and some take advantage of it, but they are contributing nothing to our operational readiness. If they have not paid or they are a customer of county fire and the Rural Metro provides significant service, they may get billed, and then they may or may not pay the bill. That's where the subsidy comes in. This model of not paying for service until you need it is like paying your health insurance premium only when you know you'll have a claim. This is not a sustainable model, and it is not fair. And if you think about it logically, 4,000 square feet of structures is going to require more resources to defend than 1,200 square feet of structure. So those homeowners should pay more based on that fact alone. A rural fire protection district has everyone paying the same $1.74 on their properties up to 5 acres. So if you have, for example, 20 acres, you're only going to be taxed up to 5 acres. We hope that the people that have been subsidized all these years are grateful for the other rural metro customers paying $1.94 that have made that possible. But it is time to change to a sustainable model. Now, I've heard some voices this week against the fire district, and they've all been about money. So I did a little research. Here's some of the property values of the people that I heard complaining about the rate. It's one thing when it's a senior citizen living on $800 a month. It's another thing when you have homeowners that have significant property. Entirely different. The people that have benefited the most from the dysfunctional financial model will likely have to pay more. And by more, I mean $1.75 per thousand, which I've showed you is a bargain, like everyone else. Truthfully, we cannot afford to be selfish and isolationist about wildfire readiness. We have to think about it as a community, including our neighbors and others around us, because wildfire doesn't stop at property lines. So we have a all-hazard fire department that provides all of these services to us currently. 100% of the residents and visitors, I might add, benefit from these services being delivered. But the problem is only 67% of the people that live here are paying for 100%. Now, some people want to know, can we build our own? I'm going to go backward. Absolutely. Let's say there's a group that wants to get rid of rural metro for whatever reason. we can absolutely build our own. All we need to do is raise $30 to $40 million for turnouts and SCBA equipment and fire stations and training and equipment. So $30 to $40 million, a few years it'll take us to raise that money. It would have to be done through a bond or a levy, and it will take several years to collect the money to begin building it. So that is definitely an option, and it may be something that the fire district board considers if the measure passes, in which case the board will come to life as well. People behind Vote for Fire District are grateful that we have a world-class all-hazard fire department in rural metro that has been providing service for more than 40 years, beginning with Valley Fire Service. These are people that have lived here all their lives, just like you. These are people that care about the community, and it shows. I'm going to ask John Maupin, one of our members, to read a letter to the editor. I'm going to ask you to unmute because we didn't talk much about wildfire. There's so much information. John, can you unmute yourself?
How's that?
I can hear you.
Okay, this is a letter to the editor in Thursday night's paper. The headline is Rural Fire Protection District is long overdue. It goes, Illinois Valley established the first rural fire protection district in the county in 1954, followed by Williams in 1964, Wolf Creek in 1977, and Applegate in 1980. Meanwhile, here we sit, 40,000 strong in our unprotected area without a rural fire protection district, mired in some sort of 1950s time warp. Here we sit, leading the list of communities most at risk from wildfire, while being the only populated area in the state, possibly the nation, of this size without a rural fire protection district. There are about 250 fire protection districts in the state. Here we sit, unable to improve our response times to structure and wildland fires, medical assists, traffic accidents, hazmat incidents, technical rescues, and public assist calls. Here we sit, unable to improve our insurance service office rating and reduce homeowners insurance premiums, unable to qualify for fuel management grants to protect our homes and communities. But we haven't just been sitting around. We're getting plenty of exercise evacuating from wildfires. 5 times in the last 4 years, Chetco Bar, Taylor Creek, Klondike, Hugo, and Slater. Our legs are strong from kicking the can down the road, and our arms are buff from fiddling while Southern Oregon burns. After the May 2019 advisory vote passed by a ratio of nearly 2-to-1 in favor of creating a fire protection district, followed by a year-long study by the Fire Committee and $65,000 in consultant fees, Commissioners Fowler and DeYoung showed their political courage and voted to put the measure on the May 2021 ballot.
Thank you, John. So, folks, it comes down to this. Do you want to take concrete steps to better prepare for wildfire and other emergencies by improving response time and building our own capacity? Do you want to participate in a fire service delivery system like the rest of the state of Oregon and the rest of rural America across the ginormous United States where everyone pays their fair share? And do you want to help either yourself or a neighbor with the fuels reduction program to improve the likelihood of escaping their property during a wildfire? So, what is a fire district? A fire district is an autonomous unit formed under Oregon Revised Statute Chapters 198 and 478. Rural Fire Protection Districts, or RFPDs, like all special districts in Oregon, are autonomous from county government. Rural protection districts are the most common delivery method in rural America. Their sole purpose is to provide fire and life safety services to a prescribed community. The ballot measure specifies the permanent rate to be charged, the services to be provided, and the boundaries of the district. The Josephine County assessor will assess and collect a fire district tax on behalf of the district. A fire district tax is a type of property tax, just like the 4-H or county animal shelter. It will appear on your property tax as a line item bill. So the boundaries of the Rural Fire Protection District have been defined by the Board of County Commissioners. If you or your neighbor have a subscription currently with rural metro fire or county fire, your property is included in the new fire district. They are governed by a volunteer 5-person district board that is elected on the same ballot as the measure approving the fire district. At the May election of this year, candidates will run for one of 5 district board positions. Candidates must live within the district boundaries. The winning candidates become the fire district board, provided the measure itself passes. If the measure doesn't pass, the board doesn't come into being. So this way, citizens of the area get to decide who is on the board at the ballot box. Very important concept is that the fire district board is the authority having jurisdiction within the fire district boundaries. And this authority having jurisdiction is the entity that is ultimately responsible for fire and life safety services in the district. So one of the complaints we hear is about government. We don't want government controlling us. We don't want government in charge. Well, guess what, folks? Since the beginning, Josephine County Board of Commissioners, the government body that we all know, they are in charge of fire protection. They have been, and they are today as I speak. So if you want to have more local control and less government in your fire protection business, then a fire district should make a lot of sense to you. As the authority having jurisdiction, you should know that Josephine County is exposed to a liability for things that go wrong related to delivery of services in the unprotected area. The other thing that a new fire district will improve is impaired command and control. When there are multiple parties involved with firefighting that are not all part of the same mutual aid agreement, administration coordination required suffers. Lives are at stake and can pose a significant danger, not only to residents, folks, but we have to think about our first responders. During an incident, all responders unify under a single command, and that includes radio communications among all responders. Not all of our fire providers in the unprotected area have this capability, which creates the potential for confusion, unnecessary delays, and conflict. This has happened on the ground, and if we get to it, we can talk in detail or ask Rural Metro to tell us about an example of that. During an emergency, engines that don't have direct real-time communications, they can't check in and coordinate with the incident commander and other on-scene agencies. And then finally, the dysfunctional financial model that I talked about persists if we don't have a fire district. Rural Metro responds to every incident they are dispatched to by 911. They don't have a choice. Responders do not look in their records to see if the call is from one of their subscribers. They respond no matter what. This means that most people in the unprotected area know that Rural Metro Fire or one of their mutual aid partners in the valley will respond regardless of whether they are a subscriber or not. This encourages homeowners to take the chance that they or their property will ever need help, which is likely given the all hazards nature of the 2,600 calls Rural Metro responds to annually. And quite frankly, medical emergencies in fire departments across the United States are the lion's share of fire department calls. I mentioned that non-subscribers are sometimes billed for their services after the fact, but payment of those invoices is completely voluntary and the collection rate is less than 100%. So billing, collection, and uncollected costs are written off, and the expense of delivering services in those cases are covered by the money paid by subscribers of Rural Metro subscribers. Non-subscribers are not contributing to fire and life safety services readiness, and they never pay for the services they receive. This means that Rural Metro's readiness to deliver 100% to 100% of the residents is paid for by, as I showed you, about 2/3 of the people, and that shifts an unfair financial burden to Rural Metro subscribers. Finally, there are no insurance requirements above liability insurance for private fire departments in the state of Oregon because the state of Oregon does not recognize them. So fire service providers can have whatever insurance limits that they want. are not required to carry firefighting specific insurance. Specifically, there's no liability insurance required of private fire departments. As there's a larger pool of participants, that is fire districts, in the Special District Association, rural fire protection districts are able to purchase insurance at lower insurance costs because they're part of a collective. Private companies, however, have a much higher cost for liability insurance and are not protected under the Oregon tort law limits. We also, with a fire district, without a fire district, we see fewer fire investigations. By law, private fire departments cannot investigate fires. Those inspections are currently the responsibility of the Office of the State Fire Marshal, which really disables the ability of local professionals to participate in and exercise local control. Given that one person, Mike Shaw, covers 3 counties and oversees inspections and code enforcement in those 3 counties, there are fewer fire investigations in the unprotected area than if we had a rural fire protection district with professionals on staff whose job that would be. And we have a lack of standards. There are no standards for running a fire department in the unprotected area. And that should give you some cause for concern. The only laws that need to be followed are labor laws for employment and OSHA policies, which are federal regulations. Any business can sell subscriptions to anyone willing to pay for it, no matter where they're located. There are standards in place for restaurants, tattoo parlors, hair and nail salons, but they are non-existent for fire and life safety service departments in Josephine County. Lack of professional standards puts everyone in the community at risk. Citizens need to have confidence in their public safety responders with whom they entrust their life. This means there's no transparency into the operations, staff training, and qualifications, among other things. This is true for both companies, by the way. We don't have that transparency because they're private companies. Lack of standards means no requirements for criminal background checks or drug testing of emergency responders. There is no transparency for either the county government or us as community members to determine what training, certification, or accreditation firefighters and their staff has. There's no access to current personnel rosters or training records, and there's no requirements to maintain records or documentation. So it goes back to this, folks. Here's the question. Do you want to improve your response time to all emergencies and start building our capacity for our fire district? And do you want to participate in an equitable delivery system where everyone pays the same, like in the rest of America? And do you want to get help with defensible space for you or your neighbor? I want you to go to www.voteforfiredistrict.com for more facts. Email, call, or message us on Facebook with questions. It's hello@voteforfiredistrict.com, and the phone number is 541-241-6009. Reach out to volunteer with us. We're just getting started on our community effort. We have until May, middle of May, to work on this. And we have lots of different jobs. You don't even have to get out of your chair. There's things you can do without leaving your home. And I'd like to put out an open invitation for our team to debate publicly anybody with an opposing view. So that might be a really good activity for the community. So if somebody is interested in that or knows a group that wants to do that, please have them reach out to us. And then finally, the question is money more important than life safety? John, I am going to unmute you and ask if you want to, while I get everybody else unmuted, if there was anything that you wanted to emphasize or add that I didn't get.
Yeah, with respect to the $1.74 fixed rate, you have to be careful when you compare that to the other fixed rates because of the difference in service delivery. For $1.74, we would have 4 stations staffed 24/7, 365 with professional career firefighters, as opposed to the other 4 districts who are primarily volunteer departments. And volunteer departments roughly have about double the response time to an incident because they have to wait for the volunteers to be notified and get to the station, of course, before they can respond. So you have a delayed response time with a station that's only staffed with volunteers that are called when needed. The other thing to consider is the difference between a professional career firefighter and a volunteer. Now, not in any way to disparage volunteers, because they are the salt of the earth, in my opinion, and they have brought the fire service to the point where it is today. But with the training that's required today to meet all the standards that we have for wildland fire and structure fire and medical response and hazmat response and rescue, the training is just unbelievable. And the recruitment pool for volunteers is just not out there. For instance, Illinois Valley 2 years ago had to float a special levy to be able to hire 3 basic firefighters in order to staff one station with one person 24/7. The recruitment pool for volunteers is just not out there. And the training and the cost of training volunteers, especially with a high turnover rate, is exorbitant. And to think that we could staff our district, our proposed district, with volunteers that would be able to staff 4 stations 24/7 with a minimum of 2 firefighters each is just not realistic. So we need to look at what we're getting for that $1.74.
That's a good point, John. I wondered if I want to ask another question of you. And actually briefly, if I could take a minute and just ask you to tell the folks a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, I started fighting fire in 1962. Started as a hotshot crewman and then worked as a smoke jumper, then ran a hotshot crew, engine captain, helicopter attack captain, battalion chief, division chief, and chief of fire on 2 national forests. Worked 8 national forests in 5 states. And I was on a Type 1 National Incident Management team the last 1/3 of my career. I started as the plans chief and then operations section chief and then deputy incident commander and then incident commander the last 5 years of my career. And of course, these Type 1 teams manage the largest fires in the country. I also spent a dozen years as a consulting at the national, state, and local level with heavy focus on RFPDs. So that's my quick background.
Great. Thank you, John. So I want people to know, I mean, John has been a member of the Fire Protection Committee along with other firefighting professionals. And so John is, I think, ultimately qualified to answer this question. So in the last week or so, I've heard people say there's a false sense of security that a fire district is going to prevent a firestorm. It's going to prevent an Alameda fire. You know, fire districts don't really, rural fire districts maybe save a house or 2, but we're not going to prevent a conflagration with a fire district. So I wondered if you could answer that question for us.
Sure. First, let me say that there is a very small percentage of fires, maybe less than 1%, that are going to go no matter what happens. I've called for a Type 1 incident management team on a 25-acre fire, even though I knew I had over 100 firefighters plus air attack, heavy air attack coming to that fire. So there are a small percentage of fires that start, and there's nothing in the world that's going to stop them. On the other hand, across the country, depending on where you are, 95 to 98% of fires, wildland fires, are stopped before they become a problem. And the better your response time is, the less time it takes you to get to the fire, the better chance you have of stopping it. And I don't know how many fires in my career that I've been on that we stopped it just in the nick of time, If we had been 5 minutes later, the fire would have gone over the hill. By the same token, on the opposite side of that is that I've attacked many fires that had we had one more engine on that fire, we could have stopped it before it went over the hill. So the name of the game is not preventing all catastrophic interface fires. The name of the game is to reduce the probability of a catastrophic fire. And the only way you can do that is shorten your response time and increase your capability. That would be more people on an engine, for instance. So yeah, and I don't think the citizens in this county are naive enough to think that establishing a new fire district is going to prevent catastrophic interface fires. I think they realize that it'll reduce the chance of a catastrophic interface fire. Plus, we need to remember that it's all hazard response. So by improving our response time, that gets us to medical emergencies, traffic accidents, hazmat incidents, and rescues much faster. And on that same line, once a fire becomes catastrophic and a wind-driven fire, somebody has to get out ahead of it and stop it. Somebody has to control the flanks. And so we use heavy mutual aid throughout the Rogue Valley in that effort, like happened on the Hugo fire 2 years ago. This was a 200-acre fire that 2 homes were lost on, but they were able to, through mutual aid throughout the valley, to marshal 20-odd fire vehicles there and only lose 2 homes, whereas a couple dozen homes were actually saved by direct action of the firefighters. And then by controlling the perimeter of the fire, many more homes that were at risk were thereby saved. So even in a large interface fire, the rural fire protection districts play a role in saving many homes. And it's not just saving homes from wildfire, it's saving homes from a structure fire that threatens to spread to the wildfire. So RFPDs save interface fires by preventing structure fires from spreading to the wildland. They save homes by protecting the structures when they're directly threatened by the wildland fire. And they save homes by putting out fires that will eventually threaten homes. So that's my thoughts on that previous statement.
Thank you, John. That's good information. As long as I have this slide up with the rates on it, I want to point something out to you. I did talk about building our own fire department. So these levies and bonds, although I don't know what comprises all of them, if we want to build our own fire department, as I mentioned, the estimate from the consultants was $30 to $40 million. So we would need to pass a bond measure, and that would be added to the permanent rate. And the way people are with taxes around here, I don't know that that's feasible, but maybe there is a group that wants to get a capital campaign together or something. But I want to just explain that that's where the capital funding would be. It would come from a levy or bond, which we're not talking about that, but we are talking about getting a new fire station in Hugo. I wanted to see Austin Prince, the division operations chief from Rural Metro, is on the line. I wanted to give Austin a chance to either echo anything or correct any information or clarify that you've heard so far. Austin?
Yeah, thanks, Janet. Actually, what John just described as far as the common question about what will it do to change the outcome of what we've collectively decided is one of our biggest threats in Josephine County, being wildfire. I couldn't really say it any better than he had. And we can obviously show a lot of examples over a 20-year period of time where we're doing an apple and orange comparison of the fires like Taylor Creek and Klondike and Chetco that were mentioned, and even Slater. Those did come into Josephine County or originated in Josephine County, but they originated in forest land and moved into the unprotected area where homes are. When we look at the fires that actually started inside the footprint of this proposed area that currently Rural Metro provides a service to, things like the Hugo fire, that's where you really start to see the difference of a well-equipped and prepared force that has mutual aid agreements and a lot of backup and coordination with forestry agencies that bring the aircraft. So I think that was a very good explanation to address that particular aspect of it. In regards to the funding mechanism and stuff, yeah, you're definitely got a lot of discussion ahead of you for that. Just to try to help people understand is that, in order to maintain a service level to a degree that people expect or want, it doesn't come cheaply. But this is a pretty good representation of what I hope that you guys are able to adequately explain. And really, when it comes to even rural Metro's perspective on this, is that we would love to be able to do everything we do today for more for less. I mean, that really is our ultimate goal. And as the chief of operations, that's really what I'm into it for as well. Having been born and raised in Grants Pass, and I've been working for the fire department for just over 32 years, and having the sole responsibility of making sure that our community is protected 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and building a relationship with our neighboring fire agencies so that we can give our community the best protection possible. That's really what this is all about. And I'm hoping that the outcome of this effort will continue to do that in any shape or form and not be less than or cut in any way, because we deserve to do more for this community because we appreciate it so much. So really, that's kind of my encapsulation of what you've talked about so far. So yeah, unless there's other specific questions.
We do have Rich, I'm going to see if we can unmute Rich's. Rich has his hand raised. There we go, Rich.
Hi, thanks, Janet. I just wanted to touch base on a couple things. Another thing to consider if the possibility of deciding if the funding was able to be raised to form a whole new fire department in lieu of rural Metro is you're still going to have the same firefighters. You're not going to bring in a whole new group of people. So it's basically they're going to be hiring the same people that live in the area that are still going to be serving. So that still quality training and the staff is pretty much going to still be the same group of people. Nobody's just going to move away. And so there's that aspect. And then the other that as a fire marshal would like to touch on is the prevention side of it. I think a big piece that gets missed in all of this is the code enforcement portion of, just being able to help businesses maintain within code compliance and keeping the community safe with, protecting those businesses from, potential fire hazards and other dangerous hazards with the new law passing of marijuana and cannabis extraction. I think a lot of people don't realize how much of that processing actually happens around here, although there are a lot of safeguards, but there is a large potential of threat that comes from those. And so they are pretty well regulated by myself and Josephine County Building Department, building safety because of that. But without that fire district would definitely help with being able to have that enforcement, to be able to keep those regulated a little bit better. And also, we have family going into these businesses and restaurants and things like that, that many of them are not regulated due to the fact that they're not a current subscriber of rural Metro. And so, do you know what's truly happening in those restaurants that you're sending your family and your employee, that your family may be working there or maybe sitting there dining with a fire potential or fire threat that's being unregulated. So I think that's really huge that, the fire district definitely would help with that. We currently also do provide fire investigations to assist with the insurance agencies to our current subscribers. So, that also is a huge issue. We've had 4 arson arrests in the last year that was due to our efforts in playing a part in that. So I think that fire district would help, motivate that a little bit better and give us the tools and the resources to be able to put a little bit more time and effort into those. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents, and hopefully it helps.
Thank you, Rich. Okay. I want to do something real quick. I want to show you, if you haven't been there, I want you to go to, at some point, all of this information and more is right on our website, voteforfiredistrict.com. You should be seeing that now. You can learn about the ballot. You can learn about the subsidy. There's a lot of information on here about the warnings and wake-up calls that John Maupin has talked about a little bit in our wildfire readiness. You can read all the information that I've covered today. There's FAQ section that is probably going to be one of the richest sections for you, specifically if you're looking for something, and it's organized into different categories. So depending if you want to find out about money, what's going on with rural metro, wildfire, and then we have another category. What's wrong with the status quo? We're going to do another webinar on that. We couldn't fit it all in today. The nuts and bolts, the information that I covered today about what is a fire district and how does it work is here. And then here is a really good section too about why can't we, right? Why can't we have volunteers? John Maupin mentioned that. Why can't we join another fire district? Why can't we start a district from scratch? Why can't I just pay as I go? So I hope that this information is all useful for you. If there's information that's missing, please send us an email, hello@voteforfiredistrict. Give us a call, reach out to us on Facebook. There's lots of ways to engage with us. And as I say, you can find us on social media and let us know what's on your mind. We have 2 webinars in the near term. One is going to be just on the money and the budget. That'll probably be in the next 2 weeks. And then we have another one that we are working with Rural Metro on near misses in the Rogue Valley and how rural fire departments prevented catastrophic wildfires. So that is what I've got. I'll check once more. I don't see any other questions. So I want to thank everybody for participating and encourage you to share the link. I will post this video up to the Vote for Fire District Facebook page, the Fire Smart Merlin Facebook page, and both of those groups' YouTube channels. And I'll send out an email address to our list so people that missed it can watch it. You can go back and listen to the conversation. So thank you everybody for being here today. I hope you enjoy the weekend. Take good care.